Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM and AM 630. WMAL.
637 on WMAL. Eli Lake joins us now, senior national security correspondent for Newsweek and the Daily Beast. There are a lot of important topics to get to, Eli, when it comes to Iran, but I follow you on Twitter, and anybody who follows you on Twitter knows that you are a music connoisseur. So I have to ask you, because there's some debate in this room, did you like the halftime performance last night? What did you make of it?
Oh, wow. You're actually catching me off guard because I didn't get a chance to see it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, okay.
Well, Madonna, I thought, was pretty good. Mary Catherine thought, okay. And Brian can't stand it because she was lip-syncing.
But I like CeeLo, and I like the drum line.
Right.
I'm a big CeeLo fan.
Yeah, he was good.
He was all right. All right, then let's get right to the Iran stuff then. So last week, our Defense Secretary, Leon Panetta, told David Ignatius in the Washington Post that he believed that Israel was going to do something with Iran, or could do something with Iran by spring, and gave a time frame. Said spring specifically is quoted as saying that. And in your follow-up, what have you learned about that? Why did he say that? Was it just a slip-up from Panetta, or is it telegraphed on purpose?
First of all, I think that there is something very real in that the Pentagon and analysts around Leon Panetta have been trying to figure out exactly what Israel's time frame and their analysis and their exact red line is going to be. There is not, Israel and the United States are two very close allies. They're not on the same page right now about Iran and when the threshold would be met for military action, and that threshold much lower at this point. I would say lower, and I mean not much lower, for Israel than it is for the United States. The United States is not in a position where it is considering any kind of preemptive strike against the Iranian facilities at this point. The red line that has been publicly talked about is when the Supreme Leader gives the order to begin making nuclear weapons.
What was the
threshold? Say that again?
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Eli.
Oh. Well, the threshold for the Israelis is much lower. The threshold for the Israelis is when either there are advanced centrifuges that are put underground in a facility outside of Qom known as Fordo, which was discovered in 2009, or whether, there is, the capability to make a weapon, which is obviously going to be sooner than necessarily the order to make one.
What was the reaction among Israeli officials to Panetta's comment specifically?
Well, when I just kind of made a couple phone calls, this is part of a kind of dance between the United States and Israel that's been intensifying recently. But you have to understand, a big part of the Israeli strategy and the American strategy is to get the Iranians to think that they could be bombed if they continue to push the envelope. And so part of this is designed for Iranian consumption.
Right.
So I think it would be a mistake to say this time it's only all about sending signals to the Iranians, because I believe the Israelis are extremely close. You've seen the kind of intelligence actions, such as the scientists getting killed and other explosions at missile sites, increase in recent months. I think that that's a sign that the Israelis believe that they are kind of coming to a decision point.
I get the sense, two things. Well, first of all, should we be concerned that Iran has the ability to launch an object into space? Is that a real military concern for us? And secondly, I'm getting the sense right now that we must annihilate Israel and America is the great Satan rhetoric has really been stepped up of late. Is that your sense as well?
All right. Well, on the second first, I would say the Iranians constantly talk about the great Satan and the little Satan, how they want to kill Israel, they want to destroy Israel, and so forth. And their rhetoric, I have not noticed it necessarily gotten worse because it's been just terrible for a very long time, particularly since 2005 when Ahmadinejad became president the first time. Now, as for can they launch something into space at this point, I don't know if that's the case. We can say without a doubt they're developing, they're researching, they're working on long-range ballistic missiles. That's for sure. Whether they've mastered the technology.
Well, didn't they launch a satellite recently?
Say that again?
Didn't they launch a satellite recently?
I don't think they launched a satellite recently, but I could check that. I could double-check that. I don't know that. I guess I would say I don't know that they have the ability to launch a 6,000-mile missile that could hit the east coast of the United States, as a Vice Prime Minister of Israel, Bogi Ya'alon, said last week at a security conference.
All right, but do they have the ability to strike inside the United States? I mean, if there is some type of bombing run from us or from Israel, what will the response be from Iran? There has been belief in the past that they have Hezbollah or some type of other, terrorist groups inside the United States that could strike. What is your belief on that?
It's been a long-standing assessment from the intelligence community that Iran has the ability to pull off terrorist attacks in North America, and that they would do so if they were struck. Now, that assessment, by the way, is changing because, last fall we know that the Justice Department announced there was a plot, murder-for-hire plot to kill the Saudi ambassador in Washington, D.C.
Right.
That would be crossing that red line. The concern is that the Iranians may be responding to some of the mysterious explosions happening in their country.
We like to check in with the various uprisings around the Middle East every now and then. What happened in Syria this weekend? Pretty bad.
Well, the death toll in Syria is rising. It's at least around 6,000, if not more. The concern is that when you saw the vote at the UN Security Council, you had a veto from Russia and China. And, I think it's very important because it raises the question, for many critics during the George W. Bush administration, does that make support for the Free Syrian Army and for regime change against Bashar Assad less legitimate because two autocratic countries, China and Russia, have vetoed a UN Security Council resolution?
Right.
I mean, I can't imagine that Obama would now step down or stop support for regime change in Syria, which he's come out and pretty much said at this point. He said it's time for Bashar Assad to go, just because China and Russia and the UN Security Council said they're not going to get behind it.
Right.
And I think that's less a question for conservatives because they're less troubled by that issue than it is for a lot of progressives who, said they couldn't support the Iraq intervention because there wasn't a unanimity on the UN Security Council.
Right. All right, Eli, good to have you on. Thanks very much. As always, we appreciate it.